Hi guys, and welcome to this video. In this video I am showing you how I do this super cute little wiener dog, better known as dachshund, in colored pencil. This was a commission I had and I loved drawing it. It was so much fun. For this drawing I used polychromos, Derwent drawing and Luminance pencils, and the paper is Fabriano, artistico, hot pressed watercolor paper, extra white, I also used Lisa OMS paint thinner to blend with. So first of all, with colored pencil it is extremely important to build up your colors slowly, working from light to dark as you can't really erase. I like to start with mapping out my darkest areas, as this will help me judge the value of my lighter areas a bit better. In the bottom layer I always try to put down a lot of colors that I want to shine through, such as blues and purples. Some of my favorite colors to use for this in fur is caput mortuum, dark indigo and light blue. I always begin with laying down some base colors. In the black fur I am using a lot of blue shades along with some cool grays and some warm grays. I like to have a base color in place before I start adding details. In the darkest area I mix dark indigo with some dark violet, as this will create some really dark areas. If you just use black it's going to look kind of flat and not as dark and pigmented. So that's a neat trick. In the areas I want to be fully black, I use my Derwent drawing Ivory black. This pencil line blends like a dream, and the black is just incredibly intense dark. I have done a review on this set and I'll have a card pop-up if you'd like to watch it. For the tan areas I am using a mixture of browns, oranges, pinks, reds and purple. Such a huge combination of different colors to really make the brown areas pop. One of the things that's great about the Luminance pencil are that they are so creamy and pigmented. So what I like to do is to add highlights with them. So what I'll do is I'll have down the detail I want done before in the darker colors, and then I'll take some lighter colors, usually some warm grays or just a white, and then I'll go in with a really sharp pencil and add in some fine details. When I'm drawing eyes, I always start by drawing the edges of the eye around the eyelids dark and also the pupil. It's important to remember that the pupil isn't entirely black. I mix some dark indigo, as always, in with my black and some dark sepia. And I also use dark sepia and Payne's grey at the top of the eye, because some of the shadow will be reflected from the dog's fur, and I'm drawing the dog's fur in a very cool grey, so I have to add that onto the eye as well. As for the reflection in the eyes itself, I'm also using a light blue. Because I'm using light blue highlights on the fur, I have to remember that if there is a light blue light casting on the fur, it would be in the eyes as well. So this just helps tie the portrait together and tie the eyes in with the fur. When drawing in color pencil, remember to keep your pencil sharp. This will help you get the pigment better into the crevices of the paper and help you achieve a more realistic look. I used to be someone who didn't sharpen my pencil very often, as I thought it was extremely wasteful. But after I started doing it, it's really been a game changer. It makes it so much easier to get the pigment down and have an even layout of pigment and not have the paper show through, so I would definitely recommend doing that. If you are having trouble sharpening your pencils, more often than not, it's not your pencil that's the problem, it's the sharpener's blade that is dull. This can make your pencil lid snap and break or break into small pieces. So if you're having issues with that, maybe change either the blade or the sharpener itself. I move forward slowly while I erase my graphite sketch before drawing over the areas where I've sketched something out. And if you don't erase the graphite, it will most often show through the colored pencil, especially in lighter areas. And what you'll actually see is you'll get some areas that are sort of smudgy in color or not as pigmented as you like. And maybe they'll be desaturated, and it's really annoying because you can't go back and remove the graphite. So what I do is I just sketch my sketch very light-handed with an HB pencil. Then it's super easy to erase as I go along. No matter what I'm drawing, I always use my reference photo a lot. A good reference photo is definitely key when working with realism and wanting your drawings to look as realistic as possible. Sometimes I even feel like I look more at my reference photo than my actual drawing as I'm working on it. What I do is I take notice of the different shades and shape in the picture, the direction of the fur and the length, where the shadows and lights are going, and so on and so on. So what I recommend is keep looking at your reference as you're drawing to check that your drawing is turning out accurate. And what I do is I have the reference photo up on either my laptop or my iPad next to my drawing, and then I just have it right beside the drawing so I can just glance over it whenever I need to. Some people also print out the reference photo. I don't have a good printer, so I don't do this because I'm afraid of the colors being saturated in the wrong way or not having it detailed enough. I like to be able to zoom in on my computer. I do this a lot, and that's just my preference. Maybe you'd prefer to have it out on a piece of paper where you can also swatch the colors on. That's up to you. When I'm blending the lighter brown areas, I'm being very careful as not to drag my brush into the black areas and back into the brown areas, because this will make them look smudgy and grey and just not good. When it comes to blending with solvent, you need to have enough pigment on the paper. You need to have enough layers down, because otherwise it's going to look kind of gritty and not the smooth look you want to achieve by it. And also, a lot of people get frustrated because when you blend your first layer, it's going to look rough and without detail, and you need to keep working on it. But that's just the trick, you need to keep working on it, you need to add more layers. What I use it for is just creating a base of the color I want to build upon, and to make things look a bit softer as well when I'm drawing fur. And here on the chest I am working on the set base layer, where I'll have some cool grays, I will have some purples, I'll have some blues and also a bit of red, as well as some warm grays, and then I'll darken it up as I go. The pencils I love using for my base layer are the Luminance, as they are so creamy and they blend so well with OMS. I prefer doing as much as my base layer as possible with the Luminance pencils, and then I go in with the polychromos for details, and then back on top again with the Luminance for highlights. When you are working with solvents, it's extremely important that you let the layers in between dry, because otherwise you ruin the texture of the paper and you won't be able to layer as much detail on top. Also, be careful, don't use a whole lot of solvent. I just dip my brush and then I'll dry it off on a tissue paper and then I'll blend. So there's actually a very, very small amount of solvent on my brush. When you are drawing lighter fur areas as the tan points on this dog, go slowly forward with your shadows. I like to build a base color that is going to be the color of my lightest areas, and then adding details on top of that. Because what I found is that it's very hard to add details on this sort of color afterwards. You can add a bit, but not a whole lot. So try to avoid going too dark too early and just slowly build the colors up. Anyways, that's pretty much it for this guy. I hope you liked the drawing, and if you have any questions, as always, just leave them down below. If you liked the tutorial, please give it a thumbs up, and if you want to see more from me, you can hit the subscribe button. Thank you very much for watching, and should we hear some bloopers? And the black is just incredibly intense dark.
Just as my soul.
In the areas I want to be black, I cannot find my text.
Hi and welcome to this video. In this video I am showing you how... no!